Hey guys, welcome back to the Arthritis Podcast, official podcast of Digital and Creative Media Works, where each week we take something from pop culture and try to break it down to better understand it. My name is David.
You said welcome back. That's the first time you've said welcome back.
No, I go, hey guys, welcome back.
No, you say, hey guys, welcome.
Oh.
You've never said welcome back.
Well, that's upsetting.
You added an extra syllable, which is why I was a bit caught off guard. I made a face. Hi, I'm Ben.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's about where we're at with our intros at the moment.
Yeah.
We're still getting back into the new year. We're still not quite in the groove yet.
I'm very tired.
We're on holiday
Don't know if you can tell. I'm very tired.
I'm also very tired, but we're here to deliver you the goods that you want, because sometimes, Benjamin, you got to lay your body on the line for art.
You just got to put it down.
You got to put it down.
Just lay it down like a brick.
Lay yourself on the tracks like a brick for art,
so that you can derail the train of art. You got to put us down like a penny on the railroad track.
That's us.
To derail the train of analytical discussions. That's a really bad analogy.
That's terrible. That's us, the bad penny of podcasting. Okay, well, now that horrific sentence is over, this month we're talking about how different media uses what it has to the best of its advantage, whether that be budget, time constraints, style, or source material. And this week is no different. If you watched last week, you'll know what we're talking about. But this week, we're talking about the efficiency of a series of unfortunate events, Season 3.
That German efficiency, I made that joke last week.
You did last week, I think, and it wasn't funny then, so I'm surprised you went for
We'll see if it's funny next
double
week.
dip. Comedy comes in threes, right? Yeah.
It'll be funny the third time.
Super, don't think it will, but let's find out.
Speaking of third times.
Yeah, so Unfortunate Events
Season 3.
Season 3 is 2019. It came out like at the start of the year, on the first of the year. And in my opinion, it's obviously it's the third season based on the books by Lovern and Snickett, which are then part of a greater kind of world. And it's interesting to me because this season is so far for me both the best and the worst, in that it surpasses the source material, but also like I'm not sure if it's any good, and I can't decide. Yeah,
I'm having like a hard time with this show because they're a year apart, yet the show each season is so sort of close to the previous ones. It's not like a BoJack where you can generally go in with each season and it'll kind of be a fairly self-contained, detached thing from the other seasons. This one, it's like, no, it's the lead on second sequel. What? It's technically second sequel?
I don't know how you explain
third season of what really should just be like one season.
Because it's all sort of discrete. Each book is, except for the last episode, which is sort of not any, but like, it's very weird. We'll get to it. It's also very odd. It's interesting that you mentioned that too, because it is very much, they could have released this in one block and it would have worked.
I mean, it would have worked.
Seasons seems wrong.
It would have been very long and very hard to get through.
Yeah.
So I think it needed gaps to not be like a complete fucking drag.
Agreed.
But it's hard to, I mean, and they kind of sort of poke fun at the fact that the length of time that this story covers is like a year max. Well, except for the last episode. Technically 2 years max.
Yeah, I mean, if that, because like the first season's pretty tight.
Yeah,
and so the second.
Max a year because they each have a birthday is what I'm basing that off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's across 3 years.
Yes.
And they poke fun at that once,
which is fun. And I mean,
but it's still, you're like, okay, yeah, like this does actually only take place across a couple months,
which would be cool if they'd done that somehow. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting.
You'd lose. I mean, they would have had to condense it, which I feel like would have lost.
Which is what happened with the film, and it's why it didn't really work.
Yeah.
In the same way. Yeah, we'll kind of go through. I think we'll go through the summary because I think it's interesting. How this season plays out, and maybe the summary will reveal some of the pacing issues that we'll talk about a bit later.
Sure.
And how some of the structure is not, maybe the best it could
kosher.
Be. Adam and Patrick are yelling at each other in the live chat, which I love.
Oh, good.
So, Violet and Klaus escape from the out-of-control caravan that we see at the end of Season 2 and seek shelter in a cave. Snow Scouts, including Carmelita Splats, and is it Spats or Splats? Spats. My phone was autocorrected to Splats, which is more fun.
There are so many errors in this synopsis, so I'm looking forward to this.
I didn't spell any of the names right. I included Carmelita Spats and an undercover Quigley Quagmire. The Baudelaires end up at the VFD's mountainside headquarters. Olaf's troop catches Sunny in the meantime and make a camp on Mount Fraught nearby. Fernald, or Hooky, becomes increasingly disillusioned with Olaf and develops a bond with Sunny. Elsewhere, a pregnant Kit Snicket escapes the two evil mentors of Count Olaf, the woman with hair but no beard, and the man with a beard but no hair. Violet and Quigley reach Sunny, but Sunny convinces them to let her remain as an undercover agent. During a disagreement between Olaf and Fernald, Sunny is thrown from the mountain. Olaf captures the Snow Scouts, intending to kill their parents en masse. In light of this, Carmelita joins Olaf and Esme while the Baudelaires escape on a daring downhill sled ride with Sunny.
With Sunny. Yes, I'm glad you added that.
I'm back, baby.
Sunny is not dead.
Yes. Back in the city, Kit and Poe discover dozens of fires are burning. Olaf and Co have succeeded in making even more orphans. The Baudelaires run into Fiona, where they... The Baudelaires run into Fiona, where they also re-meet Phil. Fiona owns a submarine, and the orphans begin to realize that if they can only find the sugar bowl, they might learn the truth about their parents and finally be safe, but they have to get to the last safe place by Thursday. Meanwhile, Olaf and his new family rent a wicked submarine in order to pursue the orphans. Klaus and Fiona deduce that the Super Bowl should wash up near the Gorgonian Grotto, the location of the extremely dangerous Medusoid mycelium experiments, a highly toxic and infectious mushroom. The Baudelaires reunite with Quigley at the grotto, but the toxic mushrooms are between them, and the friends part way once again, the sugar bowl in Quigley's hands. The Baudelaires discover too late that Sunny's suit has already been infected by the mushroom, and she has but an hour to live. We also learn that Finaldo and Fiona are brother and sister. Fiona offers Olaf a sealed helmet containing the toxic mushroom, and gives it to Olaf. Eventually, we learn that Finaldo burned down the Aquatic Center and the VFD research station to halt the development of the mycelium. With Fiona and Finaldo's aid, the orphans escape, returning to Briny Beach, where Mr. Poe is waiting for them. The children refuse his help, instead going with Kit Snicket, departing for the Hotel Denouement. As it transpires, a person with the initials JS has summoned all of VFD's allies and enemies together for a penultimate meeting. Whilst everyone thinks it's Jacques Snicket, we know this can't be the case, as he's already perished. The orphans meet identical twins, Frank and Ernest, the owners of the hotel, and know they can only trust Frank. At the Hotel Denouement, Kit warns the Baudelaires of villains to the VFD and asks them to signal to her if the hotel is not safe for the Thursday VFD meeting. Actually meet Frank and Ernest, twin brothers that co-manage the hotel, but as they do, they spot Olaf, Esme, and Carmelita. They sneak off by themselves, each seeming to help Frank or Ernest with setting up the means to recover the sugar bowl that is being flown in by a crow, though it's unclear who is Frank and who is Ernest. When the Baudelaires compare their stories, they determine there must be a third denouement brother, and discover Dewey Denouement, who manages the sub-library under the hotel filled with VFD information. Returning to the hotel, they are confronted by Olaf with a harpoon gun, but the children decide to protect Dewey instead. A deterred Olaf pushes the gun into the Baudelaires' hands, and they inadvertently drop it, causing it to go off and impale Dewey. The next day, the High Court takes the orphans' case, and as things are going so well, Olaf turns the tide. He convinces all present that the children are guilty of countless murders and arsons, which they kinda are.
Mm-hmm.
They then realize that the other judges are Olaf's mentors, and in the confusion, Olaf kidnaps Strauss. The children go with him, and together, Olaf and the kids escape the hotel in a boat from the roof, the orphans finally realizing the authorities can no longer help them. Take a drink. Nearly there. Oh, boy, no, we're not.
Oh, God.
During these events, flashbacks show Olaf, Esme, and the Baudelaires and the Snickets were connected through VFD, and that Lemony Snicket and Beatrice Baudelaire had once been in love before he fled, taking blame for an act Beatrice had done, killing Olaf's father. In the present, a panicked Lemony Snicket arrives, trying to chase down Kit, but finds Strauss and the others watching the fire of the hotel. She gives him a picture of the Baudelaires while stating her failure to protect them. Olaf and the Baudelaires are caught in a storm and wash ashore on a very remote island. The Baudelaires are taken by Ishmael and other inhabitants who have shunned modern conveniences. The children find their parents had come to the island after the VHD schism, creating a home with some modern technology within an apple tree, but their parents return to the mainland before Violet's birth. Ishmael now secretly inhabits that home. Kit, chasing down the Baudelaires, is also caught in the storm and washes up on a raft made of books. The islanders try to see who it is when Olaf appears, claiming to be Kit, but Ishmael sees through the disguise immediately, then impales him with a harpoon gun. But this also shatters the helmet containing the medusoid mycelium, infecting everyone on the island. Ishmael and co. immediately take off in an outrigger to try to make it to a horseradish factory, while the Baudelaires learn that the apples of the tree have been modified by their parents to dilute the fungus's effect. Seeing Kit struck on the stack of books, the Baudelaires convince Olaf to do one last good thing and recover Kit before she dies of drowning. Kit, however, is unable to eat the apple because she is pregnant, and she dies after giving birth to her daughter that she names Beatrice. The Baudelaires bury Olaf and Kit, spend a year on the island, then decide to return to the mainland with Beatrice. Several years later, a preteen Beatrice unites with her uncle Lemony, who had been able to trace the Baudelaires' fate up to the hotel fire, and shares some of their adventures with him. End credits.
Oh man, this is a long one.
It's a long one, but there's only like 5 episodes, which is part of my concern of like...
7.
Is there 7?
There's 7.
Wow, okay.
There's 2, there's 3, there's 4, well, there's 7 books that this one covers. So there's like 3 stories and then the end, and they're each split into 2.
Interesting.
There's like part 1 and part 2 of each of them.
Yeah, which is curious because I think, the other seasons had a very interesting pacing where you kind of watch one episode then the other, like you watch part 1, part 2,
yeah,
and then you watch the part 1, part 2, and they felt very like delineated, but kind of like their own unique contained adventures. Whereas this season was much more so part 1, part 2, and part 2 leads into part like it very much.
It wasn't as like directly split down the line. Like there are obvious points between each episode. So like the ending of episode 2 and this where they go down the mountain and end up on the water and they find the submarine. Like that's a pretty clear split, but there's no, unlike the first 2 seasons where
they had like a hard reset between,
there's usually quite a hard
Poe
solid
would pick them up and they would go, or
they would go actively somewhere else.
Be a great travel that they undertook.
Whereas I think with this, because they were really trying to wrap it up, they had to kind of bring everyone together. So like, you have Kit, who is pretty much a main character throughout this whole season. You have what's his name? Fernand.
Hooky. We can call him Hooky.
I don't want to call him Hooky. That's me. His name's Fernand. We have Fernand, who sort of becomes more of a main character, especially where they just take the other hench people and throw them away.
Which I wouldn't have minded if they'd done that over time, like over the season 2, maybe. I don't know. It felt very much like they wanted to clear the stage for his story.
Yeah, and they realized, oh shit, we should have done this ages ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, the pacing, because these are an hour each, right?
Yes.
And the last one's longer.
No, the first 4 episodes are half an hour each. And then the last 3 episodes are an hour each,
yeah,
I think.
Sounds right.
It gets longer towards the end. It starts really dragging out.
Yeah.
And I think it was fine. Like, they really, like, Hookie's, god damn it, Fernand's character arc really wraps up within the first 4 episodes. Yeah. After that, he's just like, whatever. They just wrapped it up.
He's just present.
Yeah. And I think it was an okay redemption arc. I mean, I kind of liked him. He's easily like the best henchman like throughout the entire show.
I thought it was
easily.
I don't know if I would call it a redemption. I've been kind of going back and forth on this, and also all the episodes are different lengths. So there's no point guessing. One of them is the last 3 are all 50.
Yeah,
and the rest of them vary between 36 and 45.
Yeah.
But no, it's interesting that because the whole season seems like it finally takes all of what's happened and then puts actually challenges the moral compass of everyone involved. Where like Olaf isn't a completely bad guy. Like he's pretty evil, but like he's not totally bad. Like Hooky has his like quote unquote redemption, but it's not really redemption.
So the redemption is
because he doesn't really change. Like it's kind of interesting.
I think he does.
I don't know to
a degree.
I don't think that he changes in this story. I just think the way that he acts towards the Baudelaires changes.
Right.
Because he suddenly has a reason to, like, but I don't know that his character drastically changed.
I don't think it's a change. I think it's more of a reveal of
that's what it is.
More of his character.
It's a reveal of more the more
depth.
You learn about these characters, the more you learn how much depth there is, and the more you go, okay, well, there isn't good or bad in this story.
Yeah.
Like, and because that was always a big theme of the first part 2 is like there are wicked people and there are good people, or there are wicked and noble people. But I liked in the season that much like in the books, it finally challenged like the things the Baudelaires were willing to do to get where they are now, and it actually challenged that moral complexity. And that's I think the core of this season is going, well, what are the actual consequences if you behave like this? Long term, is it can you just turn around and go, well, you know, do whatever you can to defeat the villain, like, because then don't you become the villain? And that's why I really like the end of that, going to the last episode where they're with Olaf. There's that beautiful shot where they're in the sailboat and it's like the crimson kind of sunset behind them. I was like, ooh, that's spicy. Like, I liked that. I liked that they helped him escape. Like, you know, how close do you get to the fire before, you know, it all goes tits up. Like,
yeah, I think that part 2 of the hotel episodes, so the 6th episode of the season, I think that one is probably the best, I would at least say. Like, my favorite episode of the season, just because it's the climax of everything.
You also
leading up to this point. You really learn the most. I felt that the final episode was kind of, I don't know, like a weird, almost convenient kind of, I don't know, like, I didn't actually realize that. I thought the last episode was actually added. I didn't actually realize it was a book because I haven't read the books. But I have a vague idea of how the books work. So when I saw, you know, like seeing, especially like the names of all the episodes, you know, you have like the XY, all the alliteration. Like, there's a certain way that those titles are made. And then the last episode just being the end, and especially with the ending of part of that 6th episode being so, you know, it could just end there. Sure, like, it would be missing a few plot threads, or like what is in the sugar bowl, like what happened to Kit, stuff like that. But you know, like, it rounds out the story of Lemony Snicket. It rounds out, you know, there's sort of like a mystery of like, oh, what happens to the Baudelaires? Like, you could easily have like a death of the author kind of situation where like the book just ends there, or the series just ends there.
The interesting thing about this one is even the introduction on the back
is like,
this might be the end, but it's not. Like, the story's already over.
Yeah, like, this is just like it's an epilogue.
Also, I don't
it's
know
an hour-long epilogue, which is what
is interesting.
Well, you say interesting. I say really tedious and boring, and like also introduced. It feels very like J.K. Rowling retconning like the entire story. And you're just like,
except not through tweets. We can hang on. Why don't we talk? Because I
didn't like the last episode.
We should shelve J.K. Rowling's villainy for the post show, because I could go on that for hours. But I wanted let's talk about the last 2 episodes and then pivot into the end, because I think the end might be a good place to wrap up. But just in case, if you're watching this, these books are like so beautiful.
Oh my god,
they're just gorgeous.
I love the effect that they have on the
binding. It's so cool. If you don't own the originals, you should get them.
David's recommendation for this week.
Oh, read the books. They're fabulous.
Yeah. But I think I might, just because of how amazing the screenplay for the show is.
Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, the books are fabulous. They're not quite as good as the show, but...
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn, that's unfortunate.
Well, the show, interestingly, wraps up a bunch of stuff that the books never address, because it has the luxury of retrospect.
More just the language. I love the language in the show.
I mean, Patrick Warburton is genius casting. I don't know how they picked him, but like, holy shit.
And just,
you could not have picked
like,
better.
there are so many lines where there's just layers and layers of like pun and wordplay and sarcasm that I just love. Like, especially when... like all of the phrases they use, where it's just like, I don't want your bitter apple, and you're like, oh, if you like literally.
If you like this, you should read Oscar Wilde.
Yeah,
because it's very Oscar. And in fact, the hotel owners is a joke on the importance of being honest.
I only picked up when I read your notes and went, oh yeah, it is.
Yeah, the whole thing's a joke about the importance of being honest, because it's like the last safe place is the country town, and instead of being 2 different dudes with 2 different identities, it's triplets with 3 different roles. Really interesting. But that's a whole like, that's a video, and like
that's a video essay that David is going to do.
Take like 20 hours of research. And I'm not willing to do that at this point.
Last 2 episodes.
But last 2 episodes. So I want to talk about the pacing issues that really struggle. That the last 2 episodes really struggle from this problem of there's a lot of payoff in these episodes for things that connect to the first 2 seasons, but mostly for things that are set up at the start of this season. Because, like, we know the sugar bowl is important, and, like, obviously the sugar being in it is kind of a fun twist. I like that a lot.
Right.
But, like, things, you know, like, who really killed Olaf's father? You know, what motivation was there for him to come after the Baudelaires and become a villain? Like, I'm just not sure that works as well as it could, because it's only introduced in this season that he had a father that died. Like, I know that he lamented and stuff sarcastically a few times in season 2, but it never, like, sticks. I don't think as a concept.
I think because there's no, like, even the even like his mentors sort of have more presence than his father, which is meant to be like the driving force
trigger
behind the entire, like this entire 3-season thing. It's
just,
like
it could have been better if they'd at least like if it been like alluded to or like
and like built up and actually.
And because we see that
teased,
book, we see
yeah.
that the book of the incomplete book of secret organizations or whatever.
Yeah.
We see that open a few times. It would have been cool to like see like his name in there a few times, like some kind of hint or like scrap. Like I know that when you go back through and you look at all the sections where Lemony Snicket's in his, you know, his office and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, you see on the walls all of the different research and you can pause it and look at all the notes and things.
Like,
But it felt like if that was the payoff they were going for, it could have been, you know, in his moments of vulnerability with Esme, Olaf could have mentioned it or like they could have had like more of a sincere connection.
Yeah.
And that would have given the viewer something to be like, well, what's this about? Like, you know, she could maybe try and talk to him about it. He could be real cagey, you know, and shut the conversation down or whatever.
Well, I feel like the flashback scenes, they mainly focused on Lemony.
But I think because he's in this season.
Yeah, and I think because they sort of realized, oh, we need to actually, yeah, because he's in this season, because he appears and is suddenly, yeah, they were like, there's like 3 time periods of Lemony in this season. There's like the origin Lemony, there's the current
day
and
with
then
the
there's
Baudelaires, and then
the
there's
narration,
however,
like the
13
narration
years later or
current,
whatever.
yeah, however long later that
however
is.
long it takes for a kid to get to preteen. I don't know.
12, 13,
12 or 13.
14,
yeah.
20.
I don't know. Kids will look the fucking same
Yeah,
to me.
kids.
Man. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, but the important bit is the death of Olaf's father. We don't really get a lot
It
of
just
that.
felt, yeah, I don't know. It was
It
just
just kind of happens.
Because
And you're
for-
like,
well,
oh, okay.
Because for the first 2 seasons, I thought it was the death of Beatrice that was going to be the trigger for all of it. Because it seemed
I
like...
mean, that's the biggest...
because she's the biggest overture of the whole story.
Yeah,
But
literally
then-
at the start of every episode
there's a
pair, you
poem.
get the for Beatrice.
Which,
yeah.
by the way, I've got to say, I liked the way that they handled the reveal that she was Lemony's ex-lover and then the Baudelaire's parents, and they had like a different father. Thought that was really cool and smart.
Yeah, and then I was like scratching my brain when like at the very end she's like, I am Beatrice Baudelaire II. I was like, hang on, but you're Kit's daughter. Wouldn't you be Beatrice and like not Baudelaire? You'd be
Well, no,
like,
they would have. Of course, they would have called her Baudelaire because they fucking
they would
raised
just
her.
hijack her.
Yeah,
as a child.
dude. Yeah, dude.
All right, fair enough. Whatever.
Also, like,
but also she's like, I'm your niece, and it's like,
wait,
yeah, you are.
yes,
Because you're Kit's daughter.
but then you're also Baudelaire,
You've taken the Baudelaire name,
which
yeah.
is fine. People can have different last names. It did seem odd they
It's
didn't call
fine,
us.
man. People can have different
did-
last names.
It did seem odd.
I know, but like,
It did seem odd they didn't call us Snicket.
yeah,
But I thought it was because Beatrice Snicket, but that
that'd be
could
even
then
more confusing.
that'd be confusing because then you're like, well, did
Like, what?
Beatrice and Lemony marry? Because that'd get even more confusing.
No, but then it would be Kit, because technically Kit would be. Well, it's like she's Kit Snicket, but if she has a child,
shit,
you
you're right,
assume
it's
she's
Kit's
married. Should be Kit.
Dumont.
Yeah, Dumont.
You're right. Yeah.
So she'd be
Oh,
Beatrice Dumont technically.
Jesus. Well, yeah.
I
okay.
I was thinking
So
about that
thank God
today,
they
and at
called
that
her
point I
Baudelaire.
went, yeah, it's just do Baudelaire.
Baudelaire's easier
It's
because then you know who it is. That's a
Yeah.
smart move. I like
Yeah.
that a lot. I was terrified that they were going to do a J.K. Rowling and have like the older kids rock up, you know, as adults or
Oh
something.
yeah, that scene where they were walking to the boat and
My
she
s-
was okay. That scene where they were walking to the boat and she was pregnant. I was like, who was this? And I was like, okay, it's Beatrice. All right,
Wait. Oh yeah.
because
okay.
they set it up in a way where they're sitting down and they're reading, and then the voice changes, and my brain
Oh, no,
immediately went to Harry Potter.
No,
and I'm like, oh god, and they're old, and one of them's pregnant. What the fuck?
I thought that was clearly a flashback from context.
Oh, my brain was just woo.
My sphincter did tighten though when I was like, oh, are they gonna ruin it? But like I thought it was a cute because we've never seen that character. I thought
I've
that
never
was
seen
fine.
the father.
And
I've
like
seen Beatrice.
I'm talking about the Kit's kid.
Oh right,
Yeah,
okay.
which I thought was fine. And like I'm like, yeah, if they want to do more with the existing source material, they can. You know, they've set that up nicely.
I
Um,
guess they could technically just do
like we'll do all the wrong things, which is the kind of follow up to this, which is about Snickets. I could see
like
them doing
Snicket's kids.
that. I don't want to. It's complicated.
Yeah.
In the same way that this is really complicated, where it's about Lemony Snicket, but it's kind of about the Baudelaires. It's kind of complicated. But yeah, they've left themselves open to do more with it. But yeah, it just some of the world building and the pacing, like leading into that last episode, things like they could have introduced in the fires, like when like with the whole everything we've been hearing about fires, because Olaf is an arsonist.
Yeah.
Again, you could have planted that exposition in like episode 1, where someone could have been like, oh, like the house burned down, and it was, you know, when someone says that's Count Olaf, they'd be like, no, he didn't use fire, like, you know, or Olaf could have been like, well, I wouldn't do the fires, I'd use a more sophisticated method. Like, he could have done something, I don't know, to seed that really early on, so that, and then throughout the show, small subtle hints, like just tiny little droplets in, so that when you get to the end, you go, oh, he loves fire, but that's not his jam. What he really wants is that secret weapon. Or he could even have talked the whole time about, like, you know, he wants the fortune so he can recreate, you know, that secret weapon. Like something
yeah,
to
like
seed
it's
in there.
It's weird how much of a MacGuffin the fungus becomes in this season. I was really quite sort of like confused at that, because at first when they sort of come across it, it sort of just presents as another one of the sort of pseudo villains that the show has had. So
Just
similar
an
to the
obstacle.
leeches.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, it's just a natural phenomenon. It's just a thing that it's just like one of those wacky, wild things that this universe always does, where they take something that exists and just kind of like dial it up to 11 on the scale of dangerousness. Basically Australian wildlife, where it's like, if there was if fungus existed in Australia, if it was cold enough in Australia for fungus
We
to
have
exist.
fungus.
Yeah, we have weak piss.
We have
weak
piss
fungus.
baby
We have
mushrooms.
garbage fungus. If this is like the Australia of fungus, where it's like completely deadly, kill you in an hour kind of classic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the snake bite of fungi. I'm gonna stop talking about Australian fungus.
I was just letting you vamp because I was like, he's going to say something dumb at some point.
But I found it weird that it was like, suddenly, okay, it's like Sunny has it, okay, and they solve the problem. There's like a wasabi joke. And you're like, all right, cool. It kind
It's
of,
funny.
yeah, it continues to push the idea that she's now a chef. Sure, whatever. I'm fine with that.
I like that one of the skills is like, you're a genius inventor. The other one's like, you're amazing at research. The other one's like, you can cook good.
You're a cook. You're a real good cook.
Hey, look, there's a blue collar worker in every family.
Well, I think that was it ties in well into the whole like what VFD is, where it's not just brainy smart people. It's like it's just
Everybody.
interesting people.
It's
mountaineers.
people,
it's
noble
poets.
folk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Where it's
Yeah,
like, you can chill with the inventors and the scientists if you're a chef. If you're a good chef,
You're a fucking chef. You
Sure.
Chef about.
But it was weird that because you know every single character that was like from VFD, and like in hindsight it makes sense because the fungus is like sort of that's like the tipping point for the schism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So it makes
because
sense that every character's like, oh my god, the mitochondria.
Well, because it's like finally the point where it's gotten too big, and it's like, this is
Yeah.
no longer like something that is. This is now a problem.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and
But it comes at a weird time where like when they reveal that Fernard burnt down the facility that was making it. When that happens, you're like, oh, okay. At that point, you don't at least I didn't realize at that point that this fungus is like integral to the plot, and it's a big deal that he burnt down the facility. Like he is main character. Like putting him there makes him, you know, he becomes
the tipping point.
Yeah, he's the Anakin.
He sets off Beatrice killing Olaf's father.
Like it's like he's like tipping point, and
Which
at that stage when it happens, I'm like, oh, he's in VFD and he
Interesting
burned
to
down
hear
a
you
facility.
say that, because I knew, because I read the books, I knew all some of that stuff going into it, even though I haven't read them in a while.
It was only once. It was literally only once. Like Ishmael was like, "Oh no!" Like that thing that I know the name of, where I realized, oh, this fungus is actually kind of a big deal. Literally the last episode, where
But I
it's
thought
like,
the fact that it nearly physically killed Sonny, I was like, it must be important. Like I felt like that was a good virtue signal.
I mean, heaps of things have nearly killed them all.
Not just fucking like. I mean, to me, that was like way more sinister than Olaf being like, "I'm gonna cut ya." Like that for me, I was like, oh, like a child's gonna asphyxiate to death from an illness. That's
But I mean,
a bit darker.
there was even that big monster in the water that nearly killed them. Like there's heaps of things.
I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I didn't. For me, that wasn't
The great unknown.
the great unknown.
Someone was like, I like the bit where they're like, it's a metaphor for death. So funny.
sure.
Well, it's out
Like-
there, and you don't know when it's gonna come for
Yeah.
you, and it comes and goes when it pleases.
Like I found I didn't find that the I don't know, like almost like the stakes weren't raised that much above what they're normally at when
I
she
think
caught the fungus.
I think because we just seen Olaf and Esme make a shit ton of villains almost instantly. Sorry, orphans instantly.
Yeah.
But they kill all his fucking parents in these terrible city fires in like, with the help of who's it, the mentors, a lady with hair but no beard and a man with a beard but no hair. Like they do that, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty fucked. I thought that was their grand plan, is like proper
just burn a bunch of houses.
Just make a bunch of and so
but
like
no,
Olaf
it was
has
like
a bunch of orphans. It's
like they wanted the sugar bowl because it has a cure for this particular fungus.
They wanted the sugar bowl so that they could take. It's not a cure; it's an inoculation.
Right, yeah.
So I think what Olaf's plan, or what Olaf was thinking, and what Esme's thinking, or whatever I was thinking, is the villains are going to take this inoculation, destroy the rest of it, and then just wreak havoc on whoever they want. Kind of like they have all the cards, and suddenly everyone has to do what they say.
Right.
Which kind of makes sense, but I think one of the fundamental problems is that doesn't necessarily line up with the forces of antagonism that we've seen constructed throughout the previous parts of the show.
I think part of it is that they didn't. I don't think they set up the fungus well enough to be being this doomsday device. It just felt like I got to a point where I was just like, they're still carrying around that helmet. I was like, okay, that's a bit weird, that the fact that they're still carrying the helmet. But yeah, like it kind of just felt more like a plot device rather than a MacGuffin or a like a Chekhov's gun or something like that.
Which I agree. Whereas
it was a Chekhov's gun.
Whereas the harpoon gun was
appearing, and it was like, oh, this fucking harpoon gun.
They needed a gun, and they were like, well, we can't
just use a gun.
Which I thought that was fun.
So we use a harpoon gun.
Also, something that needs to survive the ocean, because that was the crucial thing, and so it could work on the island. I was like, that's fun. I like that a lot. Let's, before we kind of get into the final thoughts and sort of wrap up and stuff, what do you think of Olaf's death? And the way he went down.
Like, there wasn't enough setup between Kit and Olaf for it to be a decent payoff, I felt. Because there was like literally one scene of them.
I don't know if
like,
it was
being together.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was supposed
like narrative wise, like sure, yeah, it makes sense that they would they would be the last two people there, but like she's pregnant with someone else's child and she kind of hates you and you're a bit of a dick.
But then it's like it's complicated because then she's done bad shit. Like I don't know, I like that.
Has she done bad shit?
Well,
like I didn't pick up on that.
The intimation of this season is that even the good guys do bad stuff for the right reasons.
I don't know. Like
the fucking follow-up series is called All the Wrong Reasons, Ben.
Okay.
It's almost like they're going for a theme or something with unfortunate events. I didn't think like, oh, they were setting her up to be like someone that had done terribly bad shit. But I thought the implication was that even though Olaf has become a monster, he's a monster of his circumstances creation.
I think it was tied well in the sense that like there was the sort of idea of having the moral compass where they were like they had, at least in that episode, they had all these opportunities to just let him die and like be free, and which up until that point they were pretty much trying to do, just in the sense of just running away. They never really they never had opportunities to just straight up murk Olaf.
They have that one time on the boat where they're going to push him over.
Yeah. But before that, like in previous seasons, there's never been any opportunities
to actually get him.
I mean, yeah, they haven't been so explicitly able to just do something really simple or do nothing at all and have him just go.
Because he's always had the power.
Yeah. So I think I think that was the strongest bit where they were like, okay, well, we're not going to just let him die because that's cruel. We have moral compasses, blah, 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 blah.
But they kind of did leave him in the cage to die.
Yeah.
Which again, like they're not good. Like there is no such thing. I like
gave
that.
him a fishbone.
Like I liked any.
Like maybe they knew he'd get.
I don't think that. I don't know. It's just I just like that. Look,
I liked how he did eventually come around.
It was not
just
but he didn't have like a complete redemption, but he at least. He showed that he had more depth than just being a villain.
Just being a complete, yeah.
And, like, I think that's really important for the thematic kind of overtures of not just the show as a whole, but, like, the body of work that this is exploring and the concepts it's exploring, where it's like, even these talented, smart people, like these geniuses in all their fields, these people that excel in everything, who have this high society where it's about, like, exploring and the betterment of humanity, like, even the worst, even when you're twisted into something terrible and evil, you have the capacity still to do good things because like it's not as simple as just becoming a villain.
Even like in the later in like a lot of the episodes, a lot of the drivers, like Olaf is like, you can't kill me because I know things that you need to know. It's like I know the secrets.
He's got all the
cards. I
believed
him. Like 100%.
He does know all the secrets,
he does.
Though.
But like, even when because again, I haven't read the books. Even when it's like happening, it's just like I know things that you need to know. I was like, oh
You're
shit,
like, you know things I need to know. I was like,
I need to know. Yeah, like
you need to tell me.
like 100%. I was like so on board with that aspect of
Yeah.
him that they push, where it's just like he's a scumbag, but like he knows things,
And he
like,
had a backup plan.
Yeah.
Which is when they catch me, I'm gonna, because I know it's in the fucking sugar bowl. And that question, what I love is this entire season, every time someone's about to answer, it gets cut off.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was just fun. Because I was like, no, tell me now. Because I was like, what if they change?
Well, then when they open it, and during the flashback and there's sugar in it, you're like, oh, haha, funny, it's a sugar bowl. There's definitely something more important in it now. And then when it's like, no, it's sugar.
It's just sugar.
It's also an antidote, but
Yeah, but that's fun.
it's still
That's
sugar.
funny, like, because you're like, what is it?
You're like, what, it is
Because
sugar?
the whole time you're like, but what could you possibly fit in there that's so valuable?
Yeah.
And it is just sugar. I don't know. That was really fun. Yeah, I wanted to kind of wrap up by just briefly talking about like the style of the show, and this will kind of lead us into our kind of closing thoughts. Like, it's very Wes Anderson, particularly in season 1. It loses some of that as it goes through because I think it realized quite rightly that the material was better served by that being a backdrop, not a kind of focal point. Like season 1 has a lot of composite shots with models and things running on the tram, and that kind of cool Wes Anderson thing. Even to an extent, David Fincher, his style has a lot of influence on this show.
There's like some like anytime they're in a car in this one, like in a taxi being driven around, that's still very Wes Anderson.
It reminds me of that scene in The Social Network where they're rowing on the lake and it's all model composite shots.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if you remember that, but it's one of those really weird, like, it's like a dioramas, but they're real people in a boat rowing. It's very weird.
Right.
And like that
Oh, like the tilt shift photography.
the tilt shift photography. And it's really cool and interesting. It looks great. And I think that both like the style of the show with Patrick Warburton as Lemony Snicket, his narration, the way that shapes the narrative, because he is an absolute superstar.
Yeah.
And there is a way that this show uses its material with like the Snickett's narration in the books and his Oscar Wilde kind of pith and his sort of these constant zingers that he's delivering, and the way that his investigation shapes the show. For me, at least, like, is proof that when people talk about adapting things and you have to change so much to adapt it, I think they changed enough. But what they kind of nailed was the spirit and the heart of the work. And if you read the books, you get the vibe of the show, and if you watch the show, you get the vibe of the books.
Yeah.
And it's because it is about like people like Daniel Handler just really fucking likes people that read books, and like that's really what it's about. It's people that like they like books, they like reading, and they like people who pursue education and pursue bettering themselves.
Yeah.
And that's like, ultimately, like, even though all of these people aren't necessarily good or bad, the fact that they all do that is kind of like, I think, the true noble pursuit that this all implies. It's not whether or not you're a goodie or a baddie, but if you do pursue those things and you pursue those higher forms of like education and art and science and just being better and making the world a more interesting place, that's kind of, I think that's what it's all about. And I just really like that they were able to do it justice, because I think that's sometimes really difficult.
Yeah.
You got any recommendations for this week?
Fuck.
You mostly just watching this, huh?
Yeah, I'm playing Warframe, and I bought a Game Boy, and I've been playing Tetris, like the Game Boy version, and it's hard. I'm a baby. It's used to baby Tetris.
And Tetris is fucking difficult.
Tetris is really hard.
Yeah. I've been obviously still playing Moonlighter. I was very sick this week, so I spent a lot of time horizontal rewatching Mad Men. Yeah, rewatching Mad Men. I'm back up to like season 6. That show is still the best TV show ever made. If you haven't watched it, you need to.
Okay, I'll go watch it.
Wait, have you not seen Mad Men? Dude, it's just my simple pitch is it's every drama that's been on TV, except it's almost entirely subtextual.
And just don't get caught up in the in wanting to be like the main character.
Yeah, well, you're an adult man, so you should be fine.
Right.
Because I'm
above the age of 20, 19.
Well, there's a lot of bro dudes who are like 35 who think it's aspirational to do, but that's fine. There's some good parts about Don Draper. Yeah, I'm rewatching that, playing Moonlight, that's about it. I can't think, that's about
Facebook.
it. Well, it doesn't really, the order is important for the rhythm of the show, I feel.
Where can people find us, David?
Well, no, okay, where can people find us?
Facebook.
At DCMWorks Social.
YouTube.
YouTube.com/DCM.
Twitter.
At DCM_works.
Patreon.
Patreon.com/DCMworks. If you aren't watching this live and you want to see the post show, patreon.com/DCMworks, where there's an extra 20 minutes of the show where we just talk about different things. We answer people's tweets, Patreon comments, questions, all that kind of stuff. You just get a little bit of extra us in your life, and that's not such a bad thing, I don't think.
A little bit of extra you and me time, personal one-on-one.
One-on-one.
We'll get rid of David. Don't worry about it.
I'm leaving. This is me. There's also like 50 plus episodes of behind the scenes podcasts, plus our ongoing audiobook drama series, all kinds of good stuff, as well as our Road to Infinity War series. And if you're a Patreon, you can get a discount on my book, which you can buy at maynardtrig.com. Otherwise, if you want to follow us individually, I'm at DCM I Hate Pie.
I'm at Literal Citrus.
And we'll see you guys next week. And if you're watching live, we'll be back in 5.